Hi guys, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Let's get some oracle cards and some message cards to look into the energies of love and romance regarding your special person, the person that you have on your mind at this time. Before I start, I wanted to mention a couple things that came through when I was getting ready to set up to record this video here in my orchard. I found this feather on the ground, and so feathers may be showing up for you at this time as confirmations. Obviously came from a bird, and birds are messengers associated with communication, so that can be an indicator of someone getting ready to reach out. And the other thing that I noticed off camera here, there's a bunch of lavender that's in bloom right now, lavender plants, and there's a ton of like bumblebees that are, doing their thing. And unlike honeybees, which are really loud, like you can hear them, bumblebees are really quiet as they're kind of going about their business. And so this is almost feeling like something that may be somebody who has been kind of like silent, cold, the communications cut off. You might have thought, okay, this is over and done with. They've been kind of preparing very quietly behind the scenes, not letting anybody in on their plans. Somebody that may kind of be using sort of the element of surprise to their advantage, but it feels like there's been a lot happening very diligently with this person that you haven't gotten any indicators. It might be something that even sort of surprises you as far as what they're able to bring forth next, that can represent kind of going from complete radio silence to all of a sudden there's kind of like this productivity between the two of you, the sweetness between the two of you, something that you never saw coming, or like a side of this person that you didn't imagine existed within them, or that they weren't kind of capable of stepping into in the interest of like fighting for a connection with you, or fighting through kind of silence or fear or distance, or just whatever has kind of occurred between you. This is someone who's getting ready to break the ice, ready to break the silence, it feels like, and bring something forth. But let's see what else wants to come through about this situation, about this person on your mind, just kind of love and romance at this time. Okay, so the first ones that we have are Keeper of Trust, Keeper of Shift, Keeper of Surrender, and Keeper of Self-Love. So it feels like this is somebody that in the past may have cut off communication with you because they almost didn't want to interrupt the momentum of something that you had going on in your life, either that you had told them about, or that they were kind of almost able to sense just in terms of your energy, or like intuitively, or things that they might have heard about you, from other people, as far as like what you're focused on, what you're working on, kind of what you have going on in your life. And there might have almost been a sense of, I don't want to interrupt your process. I'm struggling to kind of see where I would fit in, or, the commencement of a connection, or kind of taking things to the next level between the two of us. Where would this sort of fit in with your world and what you have going on at this point? So it almost feels like somebody in the past that was fearful of being almost like a passive presence within the connection with you. This could be fears that were sort of stimulated within them based on like previous people they've been with. If you're someone who's really ambitious or is like really working towards something, they may have had an experience with someone in their past who demonstrated like similar, very goal-oriented, very go-getter kind of energy. And it feels like at a certain point in time, this person might have felt that they were just an accessory, just a showpiece for this person, only there when this person was like lonely, or like other things kind of took precedence over like the connection. And so that might have been something where they were almost fearful of that happening, sort of like, what if these feelings develop? What if I fall in love with you, and then all of a sudden, what you're working on professionally, your career goals, or like dreams that you're trying to bring into a reality, what if there's no place for me in that future? So they've needed to kind of take a step back, and it feels like contend with their ego on some level, but more than just somebody whose ego might have been kind of threatened or bruised by the idea of, things that you've already accomplished, or what you're working toward, or like where you're kind of directing most of your energies at this particular point in time. This is almost somebody that is kind of the energy of like, I've got a lot of love to give, and I don't want to end up in a situation where time goes by and I recognize I'm the only one giving to the situation. And this may be somebody who has been used to kind of being with people that were with them during kind of a transitional phase of their life, and once they got their shit together, once they reached those goals, once they felt better, they kind of moved on into the next. This person might have been used as a stepping stone for other people to kind of pivot themselves into their best life on one occasion or on more than one occasion. And so there's almost something with what you have going on at this point that has caused them to really kind of take a step back and reflect, kind of like, I don't just want to be so enthusiastic when you've got all these other things that may just kind of take you in a totally different direction from me. So it feels like you're dealing with a very romantic person, a very sensitive person. They may put up that front, kind of like with that bumblebee reference, just sort of silently, kind of stoically carrying on in their life, but there's a lot of vulnerability that they're capable of. There's a lot of tenderness inside of this person that it's sort of, they may be at a place in their life where they're hesitant to kind of leap before looking. And so what they have seen, and in the past at least, during something that may have resulted in like a period of silence or awkwardness between the two of you, is it was something that kind of resembled like a previous situation that they've been in, that's been some kind of shadow that they've needed to kind of look at from different angles and approach in some sort of way, different kind of ways. With this idea of keeper of surrender, that talks about that energy of sort of, here's this fear, here's kind of the way things played out not to my advantage in the past in similar circumstances, or being attracted to like this kind of person. And there's a sense of almost they needed to sort of vet you out, or maybe made certain assumptions about, who you are, your character, or, kind of what your life would look like going forward, or what kind of the materialization of those goals would be that you might have mentioned, that they heard about, kind of what that process could be like if it was something that they'd never dealt with before. They didn't know how to proceed, just knew that you were somebody that, you're going places, you're trying to kind of make something more for yourself. And there's a sense that they've taken some time to kind of assess the situation, sort of sit with their feelings. They've not been able to successfully sort of shut off from you, even with that idea of the feather and kind of birds and, migrating. They may have migrated away from you, buried themselves in work, or kind of just leaned into that wound within that was like, this circumstance, it'll be like that other ambitious person that I was with that one time, and when they didn't need me anymore, I was left in the dust, and now they're living the high life, whatever that kind of looks like. That there's a sense that they've needed to move through some kind of fear within themselves in order to be able to kind of receive the fullness of what you have to offer and what they have to give. This is somebody who is not giving up on this situation. They're not content to kind of sit in sort of a stalemate or a stagnancy or something where they've withdrawn altogether. That in and of itself, it feels like at this point for them feels more along the lines of defeat than if they put themselves out there. If something develops between the two of you, if you fall in love, and if someday you part ways, it's almost, I would rather experience kind of the culmination of those moments than always set with this question of like, what if? What would have happened? Maybe it wouldn't have turned out so bad. Maybe I would have been, along that climb with this person in their ambitiousness, in their kind of goal-oriented energy. Maybe we could have really supported and uplifted each other and fulfilled each other on different levels. It wasn't possible with people I was trying to build with in the past, or they were trying to build with in the past, because it was always meant to be like this time, the two of us working in tandem with one another. So it feels like they've softened within themselves and are kind of gearing up to take down that veil, take down that wall, break through that ice that's developed between the two of you. And with Keeper of Shift, this is somebody who's had some kind of, they're looking at the other side of the coin. They've leaned into like a defeatist attitude, or they may have almost had to look at the reflection of like their own self-worth, ways in which people in the past that had used them, took them for granted, disregarded them, kind of the lasting wounds that left. Even if this is things that happened like decades ago or a really long time ago, it's a sense that this heartbreak still has some kind of effect on them, or it's affected their self-esteem. They may move forth and kind of pretend to be confident, or had assumed, hey, I'm a confident person, I'm ready to take life by the horns. But there's a sense of when it came to you and the experience with you and feelings that were triggered and kind of came up, it's almost like I'm not as healed as I thought I was. And so they were needing to kind of look back at previous experiences that they've had and kind of separate that from the possibilities that exist between the two of you. And with Keeper of Trust, yeah, this is somebody that wants to earn your trust back, and they're trusting in kind of that the scenario between the two of you, because you've both been shaped as people, through the burdens you've had to deal with and the victories that you've claimed for yourselves, this situation can be different than people they might have been dealing with when they were younger, people that were aligned with a different path, maybe even when they themselves were aligned with a different path. And there's a sense that they're seeing you as opportunity, as breakthrough energy, time to break through that stagnancy, break out of the old narrative and patterns. There's some part of them that consciously or unconsciously recognizes at this point that to just continue to kind of lean into that wounded space, whatever had reflexively kind of caused them to pull their energy back or like drop communication with you. There's a sense of, if I let that wound win, then it was all for nothing. Then all that suffering, all those lessons I had to learn, all the efforts to kind of put myself back out there, or keep my heart open, or believe that love was still possible, or there was someone out there for me, if I'm just running away at the first sign of remnants of kind of the previous cycles and the wounds, then how can I meet that kind of better love where it is? And so this is somebody that's getting ready to like rise to the occasion for you. Let's get a couple more of these and then I'll move on into some message cards. Okay, we also have Keeper of Creativity, Keeper of the Game, and Keeper of Fairy Tales. Yeah, so this is somebody that wants to rewrite the narrative between the two of you. You represent kind of the possibility of what if. There's a sense that you're very maybe different from people that they were used to dealing with, aside from that, almost like this idea of an ambitiousness that was kind of intimidating or a daunting prospect. But like the more they've kind of looked at you, studied you, internally and kind of reflecting on your experiences with one another, or maybe they're watching your social media, or, they've heard people kind of like speaking about you, speaking well about you out and about, that there's almost a sense of they may be feeling kind of bad that they just sort of judged the situation or assumed certain things, or again, like allowed that kind of woundedness to sort of determine their actions as far as you are concerned. And the situation is concerned. And so there's a sense of, if there's a chance to have that happily ever after at all in my life, or like with this person, which it feels like, they're very mesmerized by you still, they're very attracted to you still, the more they've come to kind of learn or understand or just sort of reflect into, not from a reactive place, but like responding to the signals that you've given them, the exchanges that you've had, who you are as a person. It's almost like I misjudged you. I judged the book by a cover in some sort of way, or by the lens of my own wounding. And so there's a sense that they want to try to make things right. They want to try to recapture some of that initial spark, the magic between the two of you. A sense like if there's time, if there's the ability to turn this situation around, I'd like to experience what it would be to be with someone, that matches my level of ambition, that is still wanting me, even when kind of the tides turn or become better for them, that I'm still there as like the person that they choose to be with, that they choose to walk forward with. So this is somebody that's like shutting the door to a lot of illusions within themselves, and it feels like getting ready to help you have like a different picture of them that is painted through whatever they bring forth to you next. And with this idea of Keeper of the Game, there's a sense like I can't run game on this person. I need to come forth with some kind of clarity, or kind of the silent treatment, or this almost like game of sort of just, I've got all these feelings, I've got this interest, I'm so attracted to you, but I remember how somebody else from my past hurt me, and so I'm afraid to take like a leap of faith forward. It's almost like they feel that they're being toyed with by their own fear or by their own shadow. This is somebody, it feels like, who's kind of stepping back into their own power, almost taking power back from previous romantic partners, previous situations, wounds within themselves. That it's like, how is this still a puppet master in my life? How is that experience dictating the terms of if I take action steps forward or if I retreat in the situation with this entirely different person? So there's almost a sense that they're getting very frustrated at almost how easily the residue of like past disappointments or aspects where their trust was fractured, how much that's still playing a relevant role in their life today. Like, these could be really old wounds, decades have gone by. They've dated other people since whatever kind of this experience might have been, of sort of almost feeling that they were just used as a stepping stone for somebody else to kind of climb up into the next layer of their life, sort of left worse for wear for someone. And there's a sense of, it took so much to kind of get to this point in my reality. Why am I still letting that kind of stale situation determine anything, determine my comings and goings, the level of trust that I have that the universe can provide me with a different experience of love and partnership than I've known before. So it's almost like they're winning in some kind of game, or applying some kind of like new strategy in a way, in terms of how they navigate through their shadow, or the instinct to kind of take the easy way, which is to just, okay, something startled them, something spooked them, they didn't feel good enough, they didn't feel worthy, they question, like, well, where do I fit in with this plan that you have for yourself? Where's there a place for the possibility of us and what we can become in the future? There's a sense of almost applying a new strategy that I'm not going to let those kind of Debbie Downer, or just really kind of like glass half empty energies, the pessimistic energies, I'm not going to let that keep me at a distance from wish fulfillment. You represent like a prize or like a victory for them in some sort of way. If I could put myself out there and just get myself to speak, open up, try to fix things between the two of us, then I've conquered this part of myself that's trying to keep me small and kind of locked within a wounded and fearful state. And with this idea of keeper of creativity, again, that bumblebee reference, and kind of the idea of, gathering the pollen, gathering the raw materials and the ingredients, courage inside of themselves, and maybe even, kind of planning something where it'll be like a communication, not just with, hey, let's catch up and make up for lost time, but like, hey, how's it going? Do you want to get together? Hey, how's it going? Do you have time to talk? And kind of establishing like a regular sort of communication between the two of you, or anything that didn't work before as far as your communication. They may even be getting ready to try something different. If you've been texting back and forth, or kind of like, doing social media back and forth, and there have been a lot that was lost in translation, or it was hard to kind of like connect with one another in that sense, kind of behind the screen, and just sort of assuming tone and inflection out of words typed, or, not having that ability to kind of read another person's body language, look at them eye to eye, kind of read into the vibe in addition to just what's being said, then this is a sense of somebody who may be getting ready to like quickly get into the place of, let's have phone calls, let's have FaceTimes, let's get together face to face, so that we can kind of move beyond this period of, there's so much possibility and potential, and it feels like an unfinished symphony. It feels like this is not how this story is supposed to play out. So this is somebody getting very proactive, getting ready to, it feels like bring forth something very different for you, very kind of next level as far as their efforts. So let's close this out with a few messages from their higher self. And they say, you are so kind and sweet and accepting. Yeah, so this person really thinks very highly of you, and that may be kind of confusing if they just sort of fell off in terms of the communication, if they just sort of stopped talking, or things went very kind of silent, or their approach to you changed very suddenly. This isn't because they're disinterested. There's almost a sense of like, I gotta handle this the right way. I can't approach you just like any regular person. I see potential between the two of us. I see the possibility to not just get to know one another or grow in our experiences with each other. But especially as far as like that wound is concerned, that's been sort of kicked up from the shadow within them, there's almost a sense of this is an opportunity to move beyond in an empowered way that narrative that's been kind of rolling around in the back of my mind that I'm not good enough, or a sense of what I have to offer in terms of love and partnership is maybe limited to what I can do for another person, or people only just kind of want me around while they're in the process of bettering themselves, and then it's off to other things. There's a sense of nothing kind of logically supports that would be the outcome in this situation with whatever they've experienced with you so far. And so it feels like it's helping them to kind of build the sense of, maybe I overreacted. Maybe, this isn't just going to inevitably kind of end in failure, end in heartbreak. Maybe there's the possibility that like my ships have finally come in, and this is sort of the type of love that I've been waiting for, the type of love I've been hoping for. Because especially with that idea of ambition, if they've kind of been put through the ringer by an ambitious person or ambitious people before, that's like their type in some sort of way. And so there's a sense of, I need to cross over that threshold of fear in order to access my type. I can't just be fearful that my type is always going to crush me, maybe like someone in the past or people in the past have done. They also say, you mirror my strengths and weaknesses, I panicked. So this person could have been like, wow, you're like a girl version of me or a boy version of me, or we would work really well together, or, you're everything that I kind of hoped for or was looking for in a person that I didn't really think existed, and then here you are and you're giving me the time of day. And so it feels like this has been some sort of rite of passage for them. They had to kind of get into this aspect within themselves, kind of understand that sort of vulnerability, that wound within, in order to be able to progress forward with you in a way that they can continue to rise to the occasion and sort of show up for you in whatever's possible between the two of you moving forward. They also say, I miss your warmth. Yeah, so this is definitely somebody that is making their way back towards you. They're blazing a new trail headed in your direction, kind of building very quietly behind the scenes and getting ready to kind of reignite the spark between the two of you, kind of fan that flame a little bit, participate with you in a more open way, or maybe, kind of pick up where you left off in some sort of way. But there's a sense of, I don't just want this kind of back and forth and we're looking at each other at this threshold and, kind of scared to make moves forward and, uncertain about what the future will hold. This is somebody that wants to come forward with the confidence of like, okay, I'm going to lead us both beyond this. Because I can't stop thinking of you. I can't ignore the fact that there was the possibility of something very exceptional between the two of us, and I panicked. I stepped back, I ran. And so this is somebody that's, getting ready to return and getting ready to invest with you in a way that they didn't do before. So openness, creativity, as far as like getting together for dates, things that they kind of express, or even just more time spent with you. More directness, or allowing you to be direct with them, just whatever that looks like, sweetness, gestures, romantic things, wherever you're at in your situation with one another. It feels like this person's getting ready to pour into you to try and revive this situation in some sort of way, because they can't stand the thought of like, I manifested somebody like you or an opportunity like this in my life, and then just as quickly as you came in, you slipped through my fingers. And so there's a sense that they're not just going to settle within that defeat. They're not just going to be bested. They're not going to let their kind of fears or shadows kind of win, sort of beat them in this game. And so there's a sense of picking up the pace, trying something different, bringing in that communication that may be long awaited, or you might, with this idea of like signs and synchronicities kind of coming through, you may have been anticipating like, okay, I think they're getting ready to do something more. It may catch you totally by surprise, but either way, it feels like there's going to be more of kind of an influx of like the material dynamic between the two of you, as opposed to just whatever's been going on energetically. This person's getting ready to like ground that into reality, into some kind of action step towards you. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.